Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we are out in the ecosystems, we are developing our own species, and we are attacking other players' species. We're at the watering hole just trying to get something to drink, or we're turning into carnivores trying to eat other people's species. We're looking at evolution here. It's a card game building combos and such for 2 to 6 players, plays in about 60 minutes from North Star Games. Let me show you how it's played. I'll see you on the other side. At the beginning of evolution, everyone gets to pick a bag, which essentially is a stomach pouch of a certain animal. They don't do anything special, but they are cool, different artwork that you'll be keeping your victory points and food in throughout the game. Now everybody starts with one species, and they're going to get these cubes to denote the body size and population size of one. Now the cool thing about these is if your table is limited space, you can also flip these over to be the wide way as well. They do the same thing, but depending on your table shape, you can make it fit better on your table. The game is played through 4 phases. The first one is dealing cards. Everyone will get 3 cards plus 1 for every species they have. So in this case, I have 1 species, so I get 4 cards. There's also this really cool first player marker, a big brontosaurus. I mean, look how big this thing is. That's my hand. It's huge and really cool. Now after the cards are dealt, we will select food. That's the second phase. Now all the cards have different things you can do with them. One of the things you can do is select the amount of food, and that's denoted by the leaf and the amount of food there. This tells you how many food this card's going to bring out. Now these are all secret. These are in your hand. People can't see them, but I'm putting them here for the video. So let's say if I selected this one and put it face down into the food pool, that's going to get 4 food there. Let's show you. So I'd take that card and put it right in the watering hole. It's actually a really gorgeous piece of artwork there. And let's play with playing with 4 players. The other 3 would do as well. So there'd be 1 card per player in the watering hole. Then we go to the play cards phase. When playing cards, there's 3 different things you can do, and you can play as many as you want on your turn. Now I have 3 cards left in the first round here. You can discard a card face up. I'm going to discard this carnivore card. We'll show you those later. To bring in a new species. So I could actually discard a card, bring in a new species, and they would start at 1 body and 1 size here. Now second thing I could do, possibly with some of these cards, is I could actually play a trait face down in front of one of my species. Now, when you're playing traits on species, you cannot never have the same trait card on the same species, and you can't have more than 3 trait cards on any given species. The third thing you can do with your cards, you can discard it face up. I'm going to discard this hard shell trait face up, and I can move up any population or body size of any of my species up by 1 for every card that I discarded. So let's say I just discarded 1 card, and I'll move my population up by 1, and you can never have more than 6 of either of those on any species. Then it would go to the next player's turn. They'd play all their cards and so on and so forth around the table clockwise from the first turn marker. Once that's done, everybody will flip any trait cards they have played. We'll get to what these do here in just a moment. Now before we get to the food there, it is possible that in the future rounds, some player might have some special cards. They have these little leaves on them, and these manipulate the food before anybody does. For example, this one says, before the food cards are revealed, take 1 plant food from the food bank. That's where we're about to go to. This one says, before the food cards are revealed, this species gains 1 population if there's food in the watering hole. Well, right now, the first round, there's no food in the watering hole, so these don't really do a whole lot, but let you know that some of these trait cards can help you manipulate the food before it's given out. Now we'd go to the feeding phase. We'd take all the cards here, we'd flip them up, and once again we would add the amount of food here, 4, 5, 7, and 4. So we would add 20 food to the watering hole. Now this is what it looks like with the 20 food there in the watering hole, and then from the first player going clockwise, we'd feed our species. Now this trait that I had was foraging, and this says anytime this species eats food, take 1 additional plant food from the same source. So in this case, I would normally just take 1 plant food, but because he has this card, I would take a second one, and he's fed up to his population. Then it would go to the next player. We'd go circle and circle all the way around until either everyone is fed all the way up to their population marker, or until all the food is gone. Now a couple of things about feeding is you can never have more food than the population you have. Also, let's say this guy was a population of 3, but he only ate 2. At the end of the feeding phase, his population would dwindle because one of his guys died, one of the population of his species died, and he would have gone here. Now also, if for some reason a species was not able to eat at all on their during the phase, it would go extinct. So if this guy didn't eat anything, he would be completely gone and he would come out of the game. And all the remaining food would stay there. Maybe after the first round it might look like that. That'll be for the beginning of the next round, and this will pass to the next player, and we would continue to play rounds like this. And if you had to discard a species from being extinct, however many trait cards you also discarded with that, that's how many you would draw up into your hand as well. And at the end of the round, essentially you'd take all the food that you've eaten and you would put it in this nice little bag. Each of those foods is 1 point, and this is where you keep all your points for the whole game. And this would continue until the draw deck of all the trait cards get emptied. If it's emptied during the draw cards phase, that will be the last round. Or if it gets emptied during a different phase, you'll play one more round after that. Then you go to final scoring, which essentially is 1 point for every piece of food in your bag. You'd also get 1 point for each species worth the population. So this one would be 4 points, this one would be worth 3 points, and then 1 point for every trait card. And you add it up, and that's the one who has the most is the winner. If there's a tie, the one with the most trait cards is the winner, and if there's still a tie, the one with the most population points. Now I want to show you some of the different cards in the game. Now the carnivore, he's a trait that makes him a meat eater, and he can never eat plant food. But let's say this is me, and even though this is right next to it, let's just assume this is an opponent for the video sake. And let's say it's time for him to eat. He's already fed some of his other plant eaters, and as long as his body size is bigger than somebody else's and this player doesn't have any defense to stop him, he can eat this guy. So what would happen is, since his body size is larger, he would essentially eat this guy and his population would go down. The attacked player gets to put this in his bag for 1 point. He would still get that. And the carnivore would take a food thing from the bank, not the watering hole, but the actual bank itself. And see, these are the normal plant foods, but on the other side it's meat. He would take one meat for the body size of the one he ate, so that's 2. And it would go around again, and let's say, oh, he's still hungry, he can eat up to his population size. He would eat this guy again, this would go in this player's bag, and he would reduce his population, and he would eat 2, but he can really only eat 1 because he can't eat more than his population, and that's how a carnivore attack would work. Now there's some other cool cards here that allow normal herbivores to eat meat. For example, cooperation. When the species takes food, the species to the right also takes 1 food from the same source. So if this was a species that ate meat, the guy to my right, if I have a species there, would eat meat. Scavenger. Take 1 meat from the food bank when any carnivore attacks any species. So you would get a meat every time that happens. Essentially, it's a point like that. Now there's also some defensive cards. For example, hard shell, +4 body size when determining this species can be attacked. As we saw, you need a larger body size as the carnivore, so that helps protect you. Maybe defensive herding. Carnivore must be larger in population to attack this species. So different ways to defend against different carnivores and such. Now the game comes with a really nice player aid that goes through all the phases. It actually has a way to, in a fun way, to name your species by taking 2 of its traits and taking one of these names and these names and naming it. On the other side, it actually has a nice color player aid with all the different cards that are in the game and what they do. So those are all the different traits. I showed you some of them, but there's many more. That's how you play Evolution. Now I did the Kickstarter preview for this game before it was even out a couple of years ago. And I could say, after getting the final product, this is the 2nd edition that I showed here, I'm really impressed with the production value. The player shields, the player screens are very nice there. They're durable, they have all the cards on there. The watering hole is just very colorful. The artwork on the cards are awesome, the box is great, the insert's good. Everything production-wise is fantastic in this game. Now the gameplay itself, if you like the attacking other players and trying to outwit them, and you like to combo cards together and special abilities together, almost like a deck building game, but you're not building your deck, where you're comboing different things. If you like that sort of thing and reading text on cards and playing stuff and trying to be the best person, this is something that you're going to want to check out because you'll most likely like it. If you're not very much into those card playing games, then this might be one to avoid. So overall, I think it is a solid game. My biggest complaint with the game is probably the playing time, where I think it goes a little long for the amount of depth that's here. Specifically with 3 players, because you don't take any cards out of the deck, and there's less cards to go around, so you play a lot more rounds with, say, a 3-player game than, say, a 5-player game. I think the 5-player game's about right time-wise, because the cards get split up. With the 6-player game, you play a variant where you all play cards at the same time to negate sort of that downtime. So I like this game better with more players. So it's a decent game. It's one that's solid. It's fun to try to guess what your opponents are playing on the trait cards that time, or to try to figure out, what am I going to do? This guy keeps attacking me. I've got to get some defense here. I like how the cards do multiple things. They can be used for food, or they can be discarded to bring in species, or discarded to move up population, or I can play them as a trait card. I like how you have a lot of options. It's a solid game. It's one that I recommend if you like card playing, combo matching, combo playing, and trying to devour your opponents. And that's Evolution. And together, let's spread our love of board games and through board games.